Don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps the videos so much. Now let's get into the pod. If I was Aaron Yeager, I would do the rumbling. And I don't think I've ever talked about this on my podcast before, which is surprising because I am a huge Attack on Titan fan, but you will just never, ever, ever convince me that Aaron, like, what he did was wrong. Morally, ethically, legally. But it was justified, and yeah, I mean, he gave them a warning, and I just feel like that is a good... And if you don't know what Attack on Titan is, I don't know how to summarize. Like, I'm pretty good at summarizing the material, but I just don't know how to get into it. This is not going to be a serious episode. I feel like I've done back-to-back-to-back serious episodes about, like, domestic violence, and I thought I was going to make an episode talking about how I don't like to go back and forth with Tory Lanez defenders because it just facilitates the abuse of Megan Thee Stallion. Like, at the end of the day, we've talked about this on the podcast before, but men use the digital space to enact abuse that they may otherwise be prevented from, I don't want to use the word enact it again, but enacting on their victims because of restraining order, prison times. Like, we've seen how Johnny Depp was able to circumvent traditional methods of contacting Amber Heard, drag her into a legal battle, and then recruit the public in a right-wing misinformation scheme to torture Amber Heard through legal proceedings. We saw how Tory Lanez continuously recruits people to challenge Megan Thee Stallion, and it's not about Megan being a liar or anything. It's just about putting her in her place. A lot of people don't like... I'm not going to go too much in depth in this, but I just have to get this little piece off. But a lot of people just don't like the idea that a man's label of you isn't permanent. Like, they think that because a man said that you were trash or not worthy of dating, or you were only worthy of being a baby mama, or you were someone that they can shoot, or you were like whatever, that you should stay that way. And so they don't like that Megan is a survivor of domestic violence, and they don't have a problem with the violence. They have a problem that she's reclaiming the narrative for herself. She's asserting strength, and she's correctly putting the shame and blame where it should be with the abuser. And so, like, quote unquote humbling Megan Thee Stallion is just about reminding her that, like, you'll never get past the label that Tory put on you. And going back and forth with these people, like, I don't like to argue with bitches who can't read or who can't spell. I don't like to go back and forth with people when it's like you had 5 other people in your classroom and you stayed in the same room all day. Wait, like, no. So go fuck yourself. I think that's the only way that you can really get into it. But back to the unseriousness, I feel like I haven't complained, like, I just genuinely complained about things that irritate me for no reason. And so I think I just haven't talked about tote bags on my podcast, or if it has, it's been years. I really don't like men with tote bags. And it irritates me. And this is the part where people say, like, oh, well, do you like gay guys with tote bags? I don't know why people say, like, a man is a man, regardless of his sexuality, and I just don't think that all your shit should be loose in the bottom of your bag and a canvas tote. Wear a purse. I don't care if you're a trans man. Honestly, I think mass lesbians, tote bag is dubious. I don't know that I feel cool with a stud with a tote. There's something about masculine energy that I just put your shit in an organized compartment or get a purse. But going back, you know what? Maybe I'm not the person to make that call about lesbians with tote bags. Maybe I'm overstepping. It is about to be Pride Month. You know what? I can take that correction. I can take that correction. What I can't handle is any sort of canvas tote, and I think you should go to war. I really think that you ought to consider where you are as a man, that your keys and your wallet and your phone are, like, the canvas, it's just a texture issue. It pisses me off. Trans, cis, I don't care. I don't care. So that's one thing that irritates me. Somebody asked me why I hate bitches with microbangs, and I guess I should clarify. People approach microbangs with the same unseriousness, unpure heart, as someone on the TikTok live stream said. That men with mustaches do. It's not that I mean, I do think microbangs are ugly. I'm sorry if you're listening to this and you have microbangs. I'm sure you're hot. But I'm sure you're hot despite the microbang, if I'm being real. But there's a certain type of girl that I hate. It's like the girl who's too afraid to just go after the guys that she actually thinks are hot, so she endears herself to incels. Like, my friends and I used to call them incel fuckers. It's just this thing where, like, you know that you're not mainstream cute enough to, like, I don't know, bag someone who's not living in their mom's basement and engaging in school shooter fantasies, and so you go after guys who are doing terrible things on 4chan, and now you're listening to the Red Scare podcast. And one time someone was like, I listened to you and Red Scare. Honestly, I blocked her. That's the only time that I've ever been rude to a supporter of mine. Like, you just can't. That is the equivalent to me of just coming up to me and, like, just repeating a bunch of slurs in my face. Like, there is no way that you listen to those two girls and then you turn on my podcast and you think, like, oh, this is the same vibe. We have nothing in common, nothing at all. And for you to put me in the same category as though I don't even want to call them wenches. The type of girls that would see a man tweet something destructive and disgusting and then still beg for the opportunity to suck him off and get left on red because he's a misogynist who doesn't think you're a person, so you're just always going to get treated like crap. Like, it's nasty. It's disgusting. There is something... So it's my fundamental issue with Ivy Woke. Woke? I don't care. She was in Anora, the worst part of that movie. Fantastic movie. Absolutely deserved all the Oscar buzz. And to get the Oscar, and Mikey Madison acted her ass off. But, like, she ruined that part of the movie for me. I audibly jumped in the theater because it was just so... Ugh. Like, there's just something so about pandering to the worst of men. And whenever we talk about pick-me's, I can forgive a girl for saying things like, I just get along better with guys instead of girls, because, like, you'll grow out of that. You're not going to be 15 forever. I cannot forgive a girl who wants to be, like, edgy and weird to appear to incels, because it's not even like you're going after a guy who grooms, who washes his ass. Like, you're going after a guy who sees you as subhuman and is proud of that. And those girls tend to have a micro bang. I don't vibe with it. I don't like men who cuff their jeans. I don't really have anything deeper than to say. It just kind of irritates me. Like, get your pants tailored. I thought I would have more to say in terms of just general complaining. I don't know, other serious things. I don't like corporate pride merch. It's always ugly. I don't like when people put vaginas in their pillows. I don't like when they karate chop them. If you're watching this on the YouTube, then you can see the visual. And they make that little, it's nasty. I associate it with those nasty beige houses. And you know how I feel about people capturing Danish people and then making them live as slaves in your house. You can make your house look like a terrible IKEA. IKEA puts me in a psychic prison. I got these beautiful linen curtains from IKEA. They were amazing. But this psychological torment of walking through that fucking IKEA, and I was at IKEA at night, so there were, like, no workers. There was nobody there to help me. I started crying in the bedroom aisle, and this very nice Indian family walked me to the curtains, and we were on a journey, and I, like, couldn't stop hyperventilating. And the food was closed, and I could just smell the meatballs, which, like, I wouldn't have put those in my mouth because I wouldn't say that I'm a picky eater. I would say that I have a refined palate. Like, there's just certain things that on principle I don't think you should eat. Hot dogs, ambiguous tube meat. That's disgusting. I've hated hot dogs since I was a child. Pop, most fizzy drinks. Don't like them. It's surprising that I like beer. My boyfriend is always making fun of me for liking beer, but it's surprising that I like beer because it's fizzy. I just don't like it. As a kid, whenever they would serve pizza, another food that I don't like. Feels good to get this off my chest. The like of pizza is performative. I understand that it's some people's favorite food. I don't doubt that. But it's just warm bread with sauce and cheese. And I've never understood why I would want that over something. Like, if I could just have carbs and sauce, like, why would I just not have pasta? I've also never been a snack person. When I say snack, I don't mean, like, I don't like a chip because I can eat a whole bag of chips and I'm not full. If I want a snack, I'm just going to eat spaghetti. I don't believe in specific foods at a specific time. I don't eat breakfast foods in the morning. Like, in the morning, I just eat leftovers. Like, tonight, I'm probably going to have salmon and salad. Tomorrow morning at 7 in the morning, I'm just going to have salmon and salad. Why would I make something different for that? Leftovers in the morning, that's the best part of going to sleep. Like, oh, whenever you get Chinese food or something and you can have Chinese for breakfast and everybody always looks at me. Like, I feel like I got more hate for eating Chinese food for breakfast than whenever British people were getting online and they were like, oh, I'm going to have a Chinese. It's just very crazy to me. Other foods that I don't like, most types of jerkies. I don't like fruits that aren't happy. I think that you just know if a fruit is happy or if it's bad. Oh, back to IKEA. The psychic prisms was very, very lovely family. God bless them. Help me to the curtains. I'm freaking out. I'm texting my boyfriend like I'm having a bad time. I FaceTime my best friend and I'm like, Julia, like I'm gonna kill myself in this IKEA. It was so bad. I've had to return something at IKEA for 3 months. Honestly, I think the return period is I just don't want to go back in there. It was worth it. I'm just going to sell it at the... I don't know. I don't like when people go back and forth with stupid people. Okay. On like a meta level, somebody asked me if there were any videos that I regret making on my TikTok page, and like one of them in all seriousness is probably when I made that video about decentering men and everybody got very mad at me. Like, yes, what I was saying was correct, but my delivery was very off, and that was actually a very good personal lesson into like, sometimes it's okay to be like cunty and bitchy, but like that was inappropriate because I was talking about a very sensitive topic, and I do like to think that I've shifted how I approach like disseminating information on my TikToks and like when to be serious and when it's just inappropriate to get some jokes off. But you know what I really regret? Engaging with shade room discourse. Like yes, it got me lots of likes and views, but it also, why am I going back and forth with women who go on writeaprisoner.com to find a boyfriend? I don't think that that's the type of person you can type sense into. And because Love After Lockup is one of my guilty pleasures, like just I don't keep up with it consistently, but every so often on like a rainy day when I need to just sort of relax and watch something incredibly dumb on the couch, TLC or like whatever, I think it's on Hulu, Love After Lockup is so good because it's just so absurd. It's so obvious that it's a scam on the part of the prisoners. And for what? If this is your first time listening to my podcast, normally these are a lot more structured. But again, it's just been very serious, and people tend to like the ranting episodes. You know, those tend to be my highest listened to. Why? I don't know. Would I listen to just 12 straight minutes of me going off and no direction? Admittedly, no. That's why I don't like to make them that much. I kind of feel bad when I put these episodes out. But it's like, what can you do? What can you say? We're back. But just on a more like meta reflection on my content, I really blew up online talking about like, oh, Matthew was bunting the microphone. Talking about like men and dating. Oh, he unplugged it. Okay. Men and dating and self-esteem and all of that. And then I quickly stopped, and it's because I can't express how frustrating it is to give very common sense advice. Like, I've talked about this before in depth at an intellectual level. On a thought daughter level, I understand that the patriarchy conditions you to be stupid, to go against your best interests, to not think about yourself, conditions you don't want to man. At the same time, though, I do think if you're liberated enough to like have premarital sex and wear shorts, like it is just that easy to break free from some of that conditioning. Not all of it, but enough to the point where like I genuinely hate having a conversation with someone and they're like, he cheated on me, and I'm like, are you in a domestic violence situation? Like, are you being controlled? Is your safety threatened if you leave? And they're like, no. It's just really hard. Like I really hate the dumb bitch lies that women are conditioned to tell ourselves. I hate to see a bunch of girls on a meme page or like gathered around at some sort of empowerment event. One, because it doesn't feel empowering, but some empowerment event where everyone's like, yeah, you know, like women, it just takes us longer to get over stuff, and like we don't leave till we're done. Every woman I know who waited until, or no, not we don't leave till we're done, obviously, where they're like, stay with him until you hate him. Every woman I know who's done that, who's like stayed with a man until she hated him, has also destroyed her self-esteem and ends up hating herself in the process. And they think it's because they're putting off like the short-term discomfort of heartbreak and all the uncomfortable feelings and being alone and like questioning everything you knew about your relationship and questioning like, does this actually call my self-worth into question? Big existential crises. And they trade that for like staying with him, they're also thinking you're getting over him. And it's hard to get over someone that you're actively doing relationship things with. Even if you're not like physically intimate, like there's still an emotional intimacy that just comes with the everyday partnership, even the mundane parts of partnership, especially the mundane parts of partnership, because you haven't, oh God, Matthew, what are you doing? I think you took like 4 screenshots because you just walked all over my keyboard. But Matthew, stop. But the parts of, so sorry about that. Got so distracted. The parts of life. Sorry, this took me so long to get back where I was. It's really hard to focus on being single and building a life by yourself when you're actively still with the person that you're trying to be single from. And I hate what women tell ourselves and like, oh, but this is what we need. And it's like, no, like you're just as capable of being a man and moving on from a situation that's not good for you. I also think it comes down to like what I talked about in one of my earliest episodes, which is one of my favorite episodes, which is just men are not robots. They're people. Once you understand that they have thoughts and feelings in the exact same way that we do, like you are capable of respecting yourself the way a man does and staying in a situation that's clearly, or like leaving a situation that's clearly not good for you. And again, I'm trying to be cognizant of like domestic violence and the way that we're socialized, and also can still say that like, if you can bring it in yourself to believe that your value is not diminished as a woman because you have premarital sex and because you wear shorts and you like read and you go to school, you can break through the conditioning that it's just better to like, oh, you know, we're going to work through the cheating. And it's like, what part of him being balls deep inside another woman are you guys working through together? He doesn't regret that. He doesn't feel bad about it. He feels bad that he got caught and now you're punishing him, even though your punishment is probably like no physical intimacy, but you're still providing him like basic emotional comfort. No, you're banned from the desk, sweetie. And basic emotional comfort and all the things that he expects from you. And with the knowledge that like if he does it again, you're definitely not going to leave. Like that, why does he keep doing this to me? Because you've told him that he can do the worst. He can betray you fundamentally. He can set you up to get an STD, put your reproductive health at risk, and you will stay there and be like, he was just going through a rough time. That means every time he's going through a rough time, he's going to cheat on you. And it just became very, very frustrating to like constantly be bombarded with that type of like question, and then have these like, it's part of the reason why I only do the advice thing like once a year, because it's frustrating personally. It's like hard to deal with, you know, but I don't know, it got frustrating. So that's why I had to pivot some of the content away from that, because it wasn't enjoyable and it was like taking away my love of the internet. Although I think my relationship to the internet has changed this year just because of what I discussed in the earlier seasons, like the Trump presidency, and it's just genuinely harder to be on TikTok. Well, I do feel like there was a point in time where TikTok was a really like interesting space to have really cool discussions. And one thing that I liked about TikTok more than I've liked about any other social platform is like truly anyone has the equal opportunity to get their opinion heard the way like a big influencer is. Like numbers don't have as much of an impact on TikTok. When I say numbers, like your follower base and how many followers you have on the platform don't have as big of an impact the way that it does on Twitter. Like you need a certain amount of people to see your tweet. It's very hard to make a tweet go viral when you don't have a lot of followers. Whereas you can have a TikTok go viral and have 0 followers, because it's just about the way that like the algorithm pushes out content. Same thing with Instagram. Like you really have to work to build a following on any social media platform, but it's definitely the easiest on TikTok. And I felt like when people were trying to have these really interesting discussions about like culture, art, it was cool to be able to hear from everyone and not just the voices that everyone had kind of already decided were like the voices to listen to. I've always disliked the idea that just because someone's good at talking about one thing, they're good at talking about everything, even when I see that compliment like directed at myself, not to be self-righteous and pious, but you know what I mean? But then it just became disheartening because people were using words incorrectly, and there's also like the anti-intellectualism of, you know, people not wanting to credit or rely on actual experts. And so you have people believing that just because they can chime into a conversation and use words and speak confidently, and because other people on the app recognize them as like an authority figure, that actually translates into real world credentials. And so you just have this like bastardization of actual serious topics and actual serious things that you're talking about. It's I don't know, it's disheartening, it's hurtful. it feels like a heartbreak almost. Like the breakup with TikTok has been, I said that breaking up with Twitter sucked, but like this, I'm so chronically online. I can also admit that about myself. But yeah, the slow descent of TikTok into the pits of hell, and really the descent of madness into not even be enjoyable anymore, it has hurt me personally, because it is something that I really liked doing. It was a very big hobby, and now it feels like something where there's not a lot of substance. It's just really on it for fan interaction. I don't feel like it's moving the needle in terms of interesting or motivating discussions, especially when it comes to like movies and art and culture. Like, I just don't feel like it's pushing me anymore. Speaking of TV shows, one thing that I'm excited for to come back is Rick and Morty. I like that Rick and Morty is over. It's like meta phase where it decided to shit on all the fans, and now it's just sort of embracing what it always should be. And maybe that was a part of getting rid of, what was the pervert's name? Like, was it Dan Harmon? If it's not Dan Harmon, I'm sorry to malign you. But I do feel like the show has gotten a lot better in terms of, there was a point where it felt like they were almost angry and they hated the fans, and it was hard to feel enthusiastic about tuning into a show that clearly resented me being there, or tuning in as like an active participant. You know what I mean? And I don't feel like that's the case anymore. I hate to give you a nothing burger of an episode, but I mentally, candidly needed a break from the serious topics, and I'm realizing that I don't really have any lighthearted topics to talk about. Admittedly, every couple of months this happens where it's like, because it does take a toll to like do the research and stuff, and I want to still put that episode about like fascism out there, but I gotta tell you, doing a lot of that research made me depressed, because it just, like, the takeaway was like, oh my god, like, we're not even in the thick of how bad it's going to get, and then that made me cry. I cry a lot. Not like in a depressed sort of way. Like, I'm not a big crier when something emotional happens with my friends, but I will cry like during Sinners, because I got so scared. Again, I've really talked about the horror movie thing and how Midsummer, like, this is like the 17th time I've talked about this. It really did something terrible to my brain. But also Severance scared me. Like, I'm scared to watch The Wire. I'm kind of scared to watch The Sopranos, like, just the hideous evils in the middle of the night. I need to not go to bed watching that. One thing I do like to go to bed watching, ASMR. ASMR has been bastardized. There are still GOAT creators out there, but I feel like people are approaching the spirit of ASMR just clearly trying to get money. And there's like certain triggers that I just don't, it's not even like I don't like them, but it's like you don't put any effort into like the craft of relaxation. I was think that a lot of people are just using ASMR as a vehicle to like get their acting careers off, which is awesome. But it also, like, if it's going to be a role play, it still has to be like a good role play, or you could just say that this is a movie where everybody speaks in a whispering tone. This is, again, a very nothing burger thing to complain about. Nonetheless, I am complaining. I have seen the discourse on Lilo and Stitch, like the new Lilo and Stitch movie, and my genuine question is, why would you go and watch it? Like, I almost feel like they're like, yes, Disney's engaging in propaganda. If you don't know what the scandal is, supposedly, I'm saying supposedly, I haven't seen it, and I haven't even bothered to Google if this is the actual, no, I did read a review. Basically, at the end, Nani gives away Lilo to David's family, and she goes to be raised by like David and David's aunt, and then Nani leaves Hawaii to go be a marine biologist on the mainland. And so people are very angry because they're like, the point of Lilo and Stitch was to indigenous Hawaiians who were trying to stay together while the government was trying to come in and take Lilo, you know, bringing up the fact that like indigenous children have always been snatched by the government. And so people are very angry that they're like, well, you know, Disney's putting out this message and blah 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 blah. And it's like, but why would you give them the opportunity to spit propaganda in your ear? Like, Disney has not put out a genuinely good movie in a long time. That's not even a new opinion. it's just so disappointing to watch the amount of like credence that people assign to these remakes, because we really could stop getting them made. Like, Harry Potter does not need to be remade, and I'm not even saying this because I've talked about being a Harry Potter freak before. Like, Harry Potter just doesn't need to be remade because it doesn't. Speaking of literature, and I'll end on this note, I wanted to chime in on the is Luella McCoy black and the casting of 2 white girls to play Luella and Lulu. And I do have a YouTube video coming out. I did record parts of it this weekend, and I was editing parts of it, and I should be done. Because I really want to talk about that from an academic perspective. Just, you know, it sort of goes back to, I'll give you a little spoiler hint. There is a problem in American dystopia, you know, to refer to dystopian novels that are set in American society, where when you're writing about this future society, you obviously have to deal with certain tenets of American life that are inescapable. And one of the ways, you know, and authors have to deal with race. Race is such a huge deal in American society that it's impossible to believe that we just get to a point in the future where race either isn't an issue, or race, you know, how do racial issues manifest in a dystopia? And authors have to choose whether or not to make it important. And the thing about Suzanne Collins, and I think this is the weakest part of the Hunger Games for me, is that she both tried to make Panem a post-racial society, meaning like, you know, racial tensions and considerations weren't a thing in Panem, while also still very much bringing into the world like racial hierarchies of the United States, and specifically naming ethnic groups. She, in an interview with, I think it was Entertainment Weekly, but I definitely cited the correct source in my video, and we go over that interview in depth, talked about the fact that she designed Katniss and Gale to be raceless, right? She imagines Panem as a future, like, you know, a society set hundreds of years in the future where race is perhaps different. You think about that National Geographic, like, you know, in the future we're all going to look biracial sort of thing. And then at the same time, she sets up this, you know, caste system in District 12, the economic system, where the merchant class are all, you know, blonde with very light eyes, typically blue, very like Aryan features. And then the people of the seam, the poor district, all have, you know, gray eyes and olive skin, which I don't think olive skin inherently means person of color, because have you ever seen like a Mediterranean, a Italian, a Greek person? Well, I guess that's Mediterranean. That's just different ethnic groups in the Mediterranean. But you get the point, right? It doesn't necessarily mean someone indigenous. I do touch on Katniss's supposed indigeneity. Is that the correct pronunciation? In the YouTube video. But so in order to get from, you can't become a merchant, like, but you can always fall down to the seam. And so it's like, okay, that is conjuring like the American racial system. And then we also have District 11, you know, Rue and Thresh were specifically African American. District 11 was, you know, obviously it's the South where the majority of black people live, because Panem is designed off of the United States. And so the way that the districts are aligned, you know, keeping in mind that the borders are different because of environmental disaster and warfare. But, you know, the American South does have the largest population of black people in the country. And so Rue and Thresh are specifically African American, and they reflected that. And then there's also the police brutality that goes on in District 11, like the very, you know, specific, you know, the images of black resistance that we see with the tributes, Dill and Reaper in A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but then also it's supposed to be post-racial. Like, that is, because she didn't clearly identify what happened with race in Panem, it both allows the viewer to like impart their own beliefs on what race is actually like in Panem without her taking a stand. And so that's where you get to this conclusion of like, well, Luella is supposed to be black, or Luella doesn't have to be black. And it's like, the answer in reality is neither, but I'll go into a lot more depth in the YouTube video. So keep an eye out for that in the next like week and a half. And hopefully that satiates the urge for more intellectual discussion that you definitely didn't get in this ranting episode. I apologize. I appreciate your patience. I love you so much. Next week we will finally get around to that fascism episode, but like I said, it kind of made me sad for a little bit, and I just had to take a break. I hope you guys had a, did I just take a screenshot on my computer? I guess I don't need Matthew to come in and fuck this up for me, but I appreciate you being here so much. Also, I saw Beyonce on Sunday. It was amazing. It was so amazing that I'm actually going to see her again tomorrow. And I got messages from some of you saying that you saw me at the concert. If you see me in public, you could totally say hi. It makes my day. So, you know, please come up, say hi, interact. Yeah, I'm a little strange, but that's sort of in the name. Okay, until next week. Love you. Bye. Oh, bye-bye.